I moved to New York from Arizona at 20. I'd landed a content writing job at a fashion magazine, and I genuinely told myself, the knot in my stomach was excitement. It wasn't, not entirely. I was 20 years old, completely alone in a city that didn't know my name, and I was terrified. Finding an apartment in my budget felt impossible until I found one that wasn't, and it was so far below market rate that my very first instinct, was that it had to be a scam. I went with a friend to check it out, walked every room, checked every lock. Everything looked fine, so I signed the lease. The landlord didn't look at me when he handed over the keys. Not once. I told myself I was overthinking it. I spent the first day hauling boxes from my friend's place, unpacking what I could until my body just gave out. I showered, ate a sub I'd grabbed on the way, and fell into bed. I was asleep before my head fully hit the pillow. I woke up at 3 a.m. Something was sitting at the end of my bed. I could feel the mattress sink under the weight of it, and I could hear breathing. Slow, shallow, not mine. I lay completely still. I was so exhausted, so desperate for it to be nothing, that I pulled the blanket over my head like a child and forced myself back to sleep. I should have left that night. I'd arranged to work from home while I finished unpacking, so the next few nights I stayed up late at my desk, and every single night, every single one, at exactly 3 a.m., something cold pressed against the back of my neck. Not a draft, not the air conditioning cycling on. Fingers, slow and deliberate, like whatever it was wanted me to feel each one, like it needed me to know it was there. I kept telling myself it was the building settling, old pipes, and overactive imagination. About a week in, my mom came to visit. I hadn't told her anything. She knew I'd been stressed about the move, and I didn't want to add to it. I'd been up working through the night and finally crashed in my room. My mom was in the living room watching television. She saw me walk into the kitchen. She called my name, figured I'd woken up, came to check on me. She followed me in. The kitchen was empty. The temperature had dropped so severely she could see her own breath hanging in the air. In the middle of summer. She ran to my room. I was in my bed, exactly where she'd left me, sound asleep. She woke me up, and I asked her if the fire alarm had gone off. The following day, I called a religious man my friend trusted. He walked through the apartment slowly, room by room, and I watched his expression shift as he moved deeper inside. When he came back to where I was standing, he didn't sit down. He didn't soften what he was about to say. He told me something had been living in that apartment for a very long time, far longer than I had been alive, and it had already noticed me. He told me I needed to leave that night. It took 3 days of negotiating with the landlord to get half my money back. Within the week, I was back at my friend's place, sleeping on her couch, and trying to convince myself I'd made the right call. About a month later, I ran into one of my old neighbors at a coffee shop. She spotted me across the room, and her face changed immediately. She crossed the floor, grabbed my arm before she even said hello, and her hands were shaking. She asked me if I knew what had happened the night I left. At exactly 3 a.m., the entire building had been woken up by a girl screaming and crying inside my apartment. People came out into the street. Someone called the police. The crying turned into screaming. The screaming turned into something my neighbor said she still couldn't find the right words for. And then it stopped, all at once, like the sound had been cut with a knife. The police broke the lock to get inside. They were hit immediately by the smell of rotting meat. They cleared every room. The apartment was empty. Every mirror in the place had been shattered, not cracked, shattered, like something had gone through them one by one. And on the bathroom wall, scratched deep into the paint, were my initials.
Subscribe now.